Hello everybody and welcome back to another Not Applicable Formula 1 video. I hope you're enjoying the off season. I hope you're ready and raring to go for 2022 at the end of March. But before that, we have to talk about 2023. That's right, we're going to look past the 2022 grid that we've only just become accustomed to and think about the drivers that are going to come in for 2023, where those changes might happen, what seats are available in 2023, and what teams really need to be looking for a change after this first season under the new regulations. Let's start at the bottom with Haas, because I don't think there's going to be too much change there for me. I think Haas will stick with Mazepin and Mick Schumacher moving into 2023, assuming that they are still Haas. Obviously, if they get taken over or bought out by another conglomerate in some way, or they manage to get some money from somewhere else, I think Nikita Mazepin is the first driver to go off this grid. He is absolutely nowhere near the pace of anybody else, but I think Nikita Mazepin stays there for as long as they need that money. And knowing Haas, I think that could be a little while before they get themselves settled enough back into Formula 1 and back into the midfield maybe, before they can really start to look away from the money that Nikita Mazepin brings. And then personally, I think they should really try and keep hold of Mick Schumacher. He is out of contract at the end of the season. And if I'm Mick Schumacher, I'm probably looking for another seat along the grid. But I don't really see where Mick Schumacher can fit in. I can't find a spot for Mick Schumacher in my 2023 grid. So I think he might just, do a one more year contract with Haas, stay there for one more year, make sure that he's sort of settled into Formula 1, does those 3 seasons, a little bit like we've seen with George Russell, and then that 4th season in Formula 1 for Mick Schumacher could be the big step forward in 2024. But that's just where I sit on Haas. Let's move over to Alfa Romeo, because Alfa Romeo obviously moving into 2022, brand new lineup for them in Bottas and Zhou, and I don't think they're going anywhere. I think Alfa Romeo have done their changes for the next couple of years or so. The only way I can see there being a big change is Zhou is only on a 1-year contract. And obviously, if they come into some money somehow and they don't have to rely on him bringing in that 30 million package every single season, if they can find that somewhere else, I'd be very interested to see if Alfa Romeo maybe go for a Piastri or an Ilott in that seat, rather than a Zhou who brings in that monetary value to the team. And then Valtteri Bottas obviously coming into the team from Mercedes in 2022. They need to keep hold of him in 2023. I think he is the sort of framework that Alfa can build off of for the next few seasons, has that ability to win races, know what it takes to be at a championship winning team. Yes, he hasn't won a championship himself, but he's been in and around the Mercedes garage. He has so much experience in Formula 1 at this point. He is a great driver to build your team around. Williams is the first team where I'm actually going to make a little bit of a change. Obviously, they've brought in Albon to replace George Russell, who's gone to Mercedes, and I could see 2023 being the end of Latifi. Both Williams drivers, both Latifi and Albon, are out of contract at the end of the season. I think they hold on to Albon though. I think Williams have put themselves in a really strong position with Albon, where they didn't have to opt for him. They could have gone for De Vries. They could have gone for Bottas, who was talked about as well. They could have gone for Zhou themselves, but they opted to go for Albon. And when Williams have talked about it, they've talked about how they went for Albon purely on his racing merit. They thought he was the best driver for the team. And I love the fact that they've done that. I love the fact that they've almost pinned their future on Albon for the next few seasons. So I think he is going to be settled in there for a little while. But 2022 does see the end of Latifi for Perez for me. Perez is only 31 at the moment. Obviously, he'll be 32, 33 in the 2023 season. So he is getting on a little bit. I don't think Red Bull will want to keep him on any longer. I think he's been a very good driver for them in 2021. Obviously helped them to that Max Verstappen championship. And also, I think is a great driver to have when you've got a brand new setup and a brand new car in 2022. But in 2023, I think they'll be moving on from Sergio Perez. I can't see him getting any sort of contract extension. And I think Williams should be the team that sort of snaps up Sergio Perez. He's an excellent driver. He's been there, done it in Formula 1. He's seemingly been here for so long. But as I said, he's only 31. So he's just been around forever, but seemingly is still so young. So he is a great pickup. I think Williams need to pick up Perez moving into 2023. Aston Martin next up. I don't think there's any changes in 2023. I know Vettel comes to the end of his contract, but I think Aston is in a really awkward position because all of their infrastructure and everything they've got going on behind the scenes won't actually be ready until 2023. So you can't really judge where they're going to be until 2023. So 2022, I think, will almost be a bit of a 50-50 season for Aston Martin. I could see it going one way or the other. I can't see them having an amazing season. They're either going to be fairly average or just a little bit less than we're expecting. And for that reason, I think they need to keep hold of Sebastian Vettel. He is out of contract, but I think giving him one more year in the car would be so helpful to just have him and have his insight into that infrastructure. Having a world champion in your team does just accelerate you forward that little bit extra. And then Lance Stroll, in a similar way to Mazepin, I can't see Lance Stroll moving anywhere very soon. You know, he is tied to Aston Martin in every single possible way. His dad literally runs the team at this point. I think he will be at Aston Martin for the foreseeable future. We're going to see Lance Stroll in that car for a very, very long time. AlphaTauri is where it also gets interesting. I am going to make a change in AlphaTauri. Now, AlphaTauri, first of all, Gasly is out of contract, and therefore Gasly is definitely going to want to leave AlphaTauri at the end of the 2022 season if there is a spot for him on the grid. So I think we're moving away from AlphaTauri being reliant on Pierre Gasly, and with that, I think that leaves us with Tsunoda still in the car. I think Tsunoda's going to improve enough in 2022 to keep hold of his place, but I think he is going to have to be alongside one of those Red Bull juniors. And then it was like a toss of a coin. You know, should it be Lawson? Should it be Vips? I've gone for Hauger because he's just won the F3 championship. He's stepping up into F2 in 2022. And we know that Red Bull just love to accelerate their drivers up the rankings. Like Yuki Tsunoda was in F4 in just 2018 and now is like a solid Formula One driver. I could see him, you know, bouncing from his rookie season, which was very 50-50 and had a lot of turmoil, but really bouncing back in 2022. I think the cars will suit him a little bit more in 2022 as well. So I think, you know, having Yuki Tsunoda as your sort of rookie-ish driver and then bringing in another rookie with him sort of works for what Red Bull generally do with that AlphaTauri team. As I said, Lawson, Vips, more than capable of coming into a Formula One seat. I've gone for Hauger just because I like that storyline of him, you know, progressing through to Formula One as quickly as possible in a similar vein to what Yuki Tsunoda did. Now we move up to the top teams of the grid. We move up to the top 5, and it's Alpine. And Alpine are in such a weird situation. They have 3 drivers that all deserve a Formula One seat, all in the same team. At the moment, they've got Alonso and Ocon as their first 2 and Piastri as their testing driver. I think they need to get Piastri in as soon as they possibly can. And then the question comes, well, which driver do you replace? Do you replace an aging Fernando Alonso, or do you replace an Ocon who has shown that he is Formula One worthy, but maybe hasn't shown that he's ever really got that capability of winning a world championship, in my opinion. Did win a race this season in Hungary, got very, very close to a second podium. Alonso did get a podium this season. It's very tricky to choose between the two. There's so many moving parts when it comes to Alpine, but I have gone for them sticking with Ocon and replacing Alonso. Alonso, another driver who is out of contract at the end of 2022. There's actually loads of contracts coming to an end in 2022. Tsunoda was one as well that I didn't mention. But moving into the next era, I think it would be really lovely to have Fernando Alonso for a year. See what he can get out of these new regulations, help with the team and the infrastructure behind the scenes, and then sort of bow out fairly gracefully. I think, you know, coming back for another stint, going on and on and on. I don't want to see Alonso do a little bit of a Kimi Räikkönen. It felt a bit stale towards the end of Kimi Räikkönen's career, didn't it? It felt like he was just continuing to, you know, cycle through it. Yes, he was an exceptional driver. Yes, he always showed these glimpses of obviously being a former world champion, but I don't think Kimi Räikkönen was ever going to get back up to that level. I don't want to see that from Alonso. I want Alonso to bow out gracefully from the sport. And I think Ocon, as I said, has shown enough to keep hold of his seat in Formula One. Then we move on to McLaren, and I got a little bit of criticism in the last video. I talked about how the one change that McLaren needs to make during this season is if Daniel Ricciardo is not good enough, then Daniel Ricciardo needs to go. that does not mean that I think Daniel Ricciardo won't be good enough. I think Daniel Ricciardo is more than capable of being an exceptional Formula One driver. We've seen it before. It was just last season. He had a bit of a tricky one. If he has another tricky season, then I think McLaren need to get rid of him. I don't think he will have another tricky season. I do think he will step up in the next year. Obviously, both of these drivers are contracted for a little bit longer beyond 2022. I think Norris has shown that he is just the McLaren driver moving forward. I know he had a little bit of a dip towards the end of the season, but got very, very unlucky with some of those results too. Got punctures and obviously the rain in Russia. You know, they were just races that didn't go Lando Norris's way. And Lando Norris did an exceptional job throughout the entire season. They need to keep hold of him. And I think Daniel Ricciardo will bounce back. It's an interesting one because if he doesn't, then he should go. But I think he will, and therefore I think McLaren will hold on to their same driver lineup moving into 2023. Then we have Ferrari. Similar sort of thing for Ferrari, really, in terms of McLaren. I guess there isn't the 50-50 on whether Carlos Sainz is worthy of that seat in the same way there is with Daniel Ricciardo, because Carlos Sainz has shown that he is absolutely electric in that Ferrari Formula One car, and Ferrari just have to get Sainz an extension. Like, he is only contracted to the end of 2022. I don't know how they haven't already sat him down and just added one more year to that. He was so good in 2021. They need to sign him up as quickly as possible because there will be other teams looking at Carlos Sainz and thinking, you know what, should we have a chat with Carlos and see whether or not he wants to come to this team and move away from Ferrari? Like, that is perfectly reasonable for other teams to think that because Carlos Sainz is so good. And then, of course, Charles Leclerc, Mr. Ferrari himself, I think will be at Ferrari for the foreseeable future, possibly even for another 6-7 years. I could see Charles Leclerc at Ferrari if he continues to just keep up the levels that he is showing over the course of the last few seasons. They need to hold on to this driver lineup because there is nothing that needs to change here. They've got everything they need in 2022 to go on and be an exceptionally competitive team with these two drivers. They just need the car underneath them. Then we move to Red Bull, and obviously you know that I've gotten rid of Sergio Perez. I think Sergio Perez will move on from the Red Bull system and will go to Williams. Clearly, Max Verstappen is going to stay with Red Bull for, again, similar to Charles Leclerc. I could see him being at Red Bull for 6 or 7 years if it doesn't go too south, and obviously Red Bull can continue to deliver him a car. I don't think we're going to see Verstappen win back-to-back championships. I don't think that Red Bull are going to be strong enough in 2022 to give him another championship again in the same vein they did in 2021. But I do think Verstappen will still hold on for the team and hold out hope that obviously once they get their engine and power unit sorted out, and obviously the sort of links with Honda but not really working with Honda anymore are sorted out too, then they'll sort of kick on a little bit more in this next generation. So to go alongside Max Verstappen, I've gone for Pierre Gasly. He deserves a shot in that Red Bull car. I know he was in there a couple of seasons ago. It didn't go well for him. He ended up getting replaced by Albon, so on and so forth. But since he has been back at AlphaTauri, he's been probably top 3 drivers on the grid in terms of form, in terms of pace, every single season. Like, he is so incredibly quick in that AlphaTauri car. And, you know, there's always that argument. Is it because there isn't so much pressure in AlphaTauri? Is it because, you know, he is the main gun in AlphaTauri and they give everything to him? But I just think he is that good. I think he has shown that he is worthy of a seat in one of those top teams. And if Red Bull don't give him that opportunity in 2023, he will look elsewhere. Now, I don't think Red Bull are that stupid. I do think Red Bull can be quite stupid at times. I don't think they're stupid enough to let Pierre Gasly slide into a Mercedes car once Lewis Hamilton goes, a Ferrari car if Carlos Sainz or Charles Leclerc, you know, mess up, or maybe even an Alpine if Ocon isn't quite there or Piastri isn't quite ready for Formula One at that point. I don't think Red Bull are stupid enough to let Pierre Gasly slip through their fingers like that. He has shown he is so incredibly good. He has shown he is so incredibly quick. He basically carried AlphaTauri to where they were in 6th place in the Constructors' Championship, nearly got them 5th place over Alpine, and Alpine had 2 incredible drivers over the course of the season. Pierre Gasly needs that seat. He deserves that seat, and please, Red Bull, just give him one more opportunity, or I think you will regret it. And then we move on to Mercedes, and I think the Mercedes lineup speaks for itself, doesn't need any changing. It is going to be Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. In a similar vein to Ferrari, like they just don't need to change it. They just need to sustain what they have already got. They've managed to put themselves in a position where they've got an incredibly strong lineup. I think similar to Ferrari, it's close to Ferrari's levels. Do I think Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz is a better team than Lewis Hamilton, George Russell? They're the top two for me. It's incredibly close between the two of them as to who's got the better lineup. And Lewis Hamilton, still one of the best drivers on the grid, still shows us that every single season he is going to be up there. Yes, he didn't win the championship last year, lost out to Max Verstappen, but just. And the fact that he is continuing on in Formula One, he's got another 2 years on his contract. I think that we might even see one more after that from Lewis Hamilton as well. And George Russell, obviously his 4th season in Formula One, his first with Mercedes. I think he could have the worst season imaginable and Mercedes would still give him that 2nd year in Mercedes, because he is the future of where Mercedes are going. Once Lewis Hamilton does eventually bow out from the sport, I think, Mercedes look to George Russell as that 2nd wave of championship winning ability. And therefore, George Russell is going to be there for the foreseeable future. But that's just my opinion on 2023. A few changes in there. A few people maybe not so happy with some of the changes that I have made. But obviously, we're very early in 2022 and anything could happen. I'd love to know your opinion on what I've said in the comments down below. Whilst you're there, leave a like. We're also incredibly close, like this close to 6k on the channel as well. So if you could drop a subscribe, get us up to that 6k point, that would be absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.